All right. This meeting is now being recorded. So if everyone could take a moment to mute themselves so we don't have extraneous noise coming through, that's always a good little piece of etiquette. Thank you all for taking the time on your Tuesday to come and join us. My name is Judith Martin-Straw, and I'm the publisher and editor of culvercitycrossroads.com. If you don't know Culver City Crossroads, we publish online news covering Culver City. We've been doing 5 days a week since 2009. And it was very kind of the Democratic Club to ask me to come and moderate this forum. So our candidates for the 54th Assembly District, we have Isaac Bryant, Dallas Fowler, Samuel Roberts. I'm sorry, Samuel Roberts. I don't have your other Samuel Roberts Marks and Cheryl Turner. So is that and those are all of our candidates who are present tonight?
It's Samuel Morales.
Morales, excuse me. Sorry, I had written it in my scribbling handwriting, so I wasn't quite sure what those letters were. So great. So first of all, each candidate will have 3 minutes to do an introduction and an opening statement, and then we'll proceed with questions submitted by members of the Culver City Democratic Club. So we'll have 4 rounds when each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the same question. And then there will be several questions which we'd like for you to answer in 1 sentence or less. So we'll call that the lightning round, followed by a lightning round of yes or no questions. So those are your signs of hold up yes, hold up no, thumbs up, thumbs down, just super quick, and everybody respond at the same time. So after closing remarks, candidates will log off the Zoom call, and club members will stay online for the next 30 minutes, during which any member can make a 1-minute statement in favor of a candidate. Everyone who has been a member of the Democratic Club for more than 25 days will receive a link online to vote. And the ballot will be processed before 9 p.m. tonight. So the vote will close at 8:59 p.m. And candidate must receive 60% of the votes in order to be endorsed. If no one receives 60%, there will not be an endorsement. Or there will be a second vote. Sorry.
The voting starts at 9 p.m. tonight and ends at 8:59 tomorrow night.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then if there is a second vote, we'll start it in the middle of the day on Thursday and have 24 hours to vote.
Okay, so this evening is the beginning of the endorsement process. So we'll have all of our information in, and then voting will be finished in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, we'll start the second. If there's no endorsement on the first ballot, we'll have a second ballot with the top 2 vote getters, which will start at 12:15 on Thursday and go until 24 hours later.
Okay, great. And again, the tally is you must receive 60% of the vote in order to qualify for endorsement. So our candidates will each introduce themselves with their opening statements, and we're kind of randomizing people, calling in alphabetical order. We're just going to mix it up as much as we can so that everybody gets a fair balance and their turn. And we're going to start with
before you get started, Miss Judith, can I ask a question? For record, how many eligible members are there currently?
That would be for Pete Rockwell. I don't have that information.
Where's my, we've got about 143 or 142 that I'm going to send out the links to the voting will be tonight at 9. Election Buddy sends it out.
Okay. All right, so again, we're looking for 60% of that as you're qualifying for an endorsement. And our candidates will introduce themselves. You have 3 minutes each. And again, if you have pinned Pete Rockwell, he will give you the timer showing you how long 3 minutes actually is. Hopefully we don't have to mute anybody, but again, in the process of getting finished and making sure everybody has an equal amount of time to talk, we may have to move to mute, but we'll know that you have this stump speech packed and you know how 3 minutes works.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, it's not 60% of 142, it's 60% of those voting. It's not 60% of 142.
Well, how many? So 60% of the vote that comes in over the next 24 hours If there is no 60%, there will be a second ballot. And again, if there's no 60% there won't be an endorsement, but we'll see what happens next. And we have Cheryl Turner. We can see you. Hey, congratulations. Sometimes it's always about persistence. You just keep trying things and you see what works. So, all right. So why don't we kick off? Why don't we start our 3-minute intro of candidates telling us who they are and why they're running. And let's start with Isaac Bryan.
Okay, well, first, Cheryl, that was incredible timing. I'm Isaac Bryan, and I'm a candidate for the 54th Assembly District. I was born to a teenage mother who lived in poverty. She had been attacked, and she couldn't keep me. So she gave me up at birth, and I was ultimately adopted by a family that adopted 9 of us out of the child welfare system all across the country. Crazy white folks who wanted to change the world and adopted a bunch of Black children, not sure exactly what that was going to mean. I stayed foster parents for 26 years. I had hundreds of foster siblings growing up, and I saw the way many of us fell through the cracks. Many of our young kids fall through the cracks. I went to 11 total public schools, including 3 high schools. And along that journey, I realized there were many, many people who stepped up and provided me opportunities that if not for that, I would have fallen into systems of subjugation and not systems of opportunity. I'm the only one of my siblings who made it to college. And as a result, I felt a strong responsibility to give back and to do good. I came back home to go to UCLA to get my master's in public policy. And I got my master's at UCLA and then worked for Mayor Garcetti on reentry policy, on homelessness policy. The same time my big brother slept in Pershing Square. These issues were more than just policy issues for me. They were real life for myself and members of my family. Most recently, I passed the Measure J ballot initiative. And I passed Measure J because it's what we all marched for last year. We know that our budgets didn't represent our values, and Culver City, I'm proud to say, voted 2 out of 3 votes in favor of Measure J. And I remember coming to this club and Rick Tuttle basically stopped me from talking and told everybody it was the right thing to do. And we did that. And because of that, we're building out systems of care and opportunity. But the day after Measure J was passed, I got a call from San Diego. My little brother had been picked up for stealing a bicycle out of a senior center. And they're seeking a felony strike offense in San Diego. And that's not something we would be doing in Los Angeles County, right? George Gascon is not seeking strike offenses, and we're not punishing poverty the same way here. We're building opportunity. We're treating things that require a public health approach with public health infrastructure. And that's when I realized we need that kind of work in Sacramento. We need more opportunity in all of California, not just pockets of Los Angeles. I was a senior advisor to Assemblymember Sydney Kamlanger, now Senator Kamlanger. I know these issues inside and out. I ran as a delegate for this party and I cracked the Culver City slate. And that's when Tom Camarella adopted me and brought me into the family all the way. I still run a think tank at UCLA with Dr. Kelly Lotto Hernandez, who makes sure that I'm in Culver City. In fact, she door knocked with me to make sure that Culver City gave me the final signatures to put me on the ballot. I'm the only candidate who's on the ballot purely by community signatures. I've been endorsed by Congresswoman Bass. I've been endorsed by Supervisor Holly Mitchell. I've been endorsed by Mayor Fish, Councilwoman Yasmin Imani, the first Black woman to ever sit on the Culver City Council. I've been endorsed by the great Rick Tuttle. I've been endorsed by so many of you. I see friends, I see colleagues. I'm honored to be here. I've been fighting for justice with you for many, many years, and I can't wait to bring our fight together in Sacramento. We need a champion in the 54th, and I'm ready to stand with you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Bryan. Let's take it over to Dallas Fowler. Give us your 3 minutes.
Greetings, everyone. Dallas Fowler, lifelong Democrat, lifelong resident of this district. From the day my parents brought me home to Fox Hills, from my service and the time at Brownies and Girl Scouts, I was raised in service in this community. I have a particular set of skills and experience that I think really allow me the best to meet the challenges that we are facing. We have an affordable housing crisis, a climate crisis in the middle of a pandemic. I'm running because there are a number of issues that are plaguing our communities that I think my background say that I should be the one to serve. I have worked in construction, financial services, and as well as arts and entertainment. I have served on boards and commissions in the city of Los Angeles since 2006, serving as a commissioner on the status of women, combating human trafficking, working to get victims placed in safe houses. I also served as an LAPD permit commissioner, where I also got the chance to shut down a couple massage parlors engaging in human trafficking and forced labor. My service in the public sector does not stop there. I also served at the federal level as a grants panelist and a grants chair for the Department of Justice, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Treasury. I know where the money is. I know how to bring those resources to our district. I've done a number of grant projects to help community organizations in and around this community, in and around this district. I went away to school. I went to Florida A&M University, but I finished my degree at UCLA. And I was proud to work at Turner Construction when we developed the West Wing of the UCLA Medical Center, as well as UCMT Santa Monica, which has one of the premier neonatal wards. I am very familiar with our schools. I'm committed to protecting public education. I am not taking charter money. I am not taking oil money. I know that we have to have people who are uncompromised and committed to this community. I will stop the drilling and the fracking happening in and around our district. I will also ensure that our kids have financial literacy so that we can close the wealth gap in this state. I will fund a Green New Deal. I will make sure that we bring 500,000 to 1 million new jobs and that are thriving wages and that will do the work to clean our environment and reverse the negative ecology that we have been practicing for the past 30 and 40 years. I've only got 20 seconds left, so I'll just say this. I did not take the elevator to get here. I took the stairs. I have the experiences that I talk about are not exaggerated. I've worked on several projects in and around this community, and I look forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take the intros over to Mr. Morales.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samuel Morales, and I am a California native, having grown up in Los Angeles and Monterey counties. I'm a first-generation college graduate from Vassar College and earned my certificate in college counseling from UCLA. I served as an elected homeowners representative on the West Adams Neighborhood Council and worked in Culver City at JP Morgan Chase as Vice President of Investments for 6 years. Currently, I'm a financial advisor at Citi Personal Wealth Management. I have been a homeowner in District 54 for over a decade and own a small educational services company with my husband. My focus is on supporting our public schools, smart urban planning and commercial development, affordable housing, advocating for mental health issues, and supporting LGBTQ+ representation in public policy decisions. Many constituents in Culver City lament the rapid commercialization they have seen recently. The new developments are often out of scale and character for the neighborhood and contribute to traffic congestion. While I am not opposed to development, new developments need to consider Culver City's character and find ways to mitigate congestion. Future developments should be more in scale with the neighborhood, include affordable housing units, and incorporate local hire requirements. It's imperative we not displace current residents, many of whom have lived in the community for generations. Issues surrounding law enforcement in our communities are fraught with division. When it comes to policing our communities, we need to strengthen relationships with our law enforcement partners and allocate resources to mental and social services so they may be called upon when police intervention is not appropriate for domestic disturbances or mental health crisis scenarios. Defunding the police is not the answer. I want us all to have a seat at the table. I ask for your vote so I may represent you and advocate for my LGBTQ+ brothers and sisters and present our diverse faces and ideas. I stand in solidarity with our Asian American, Pacific Islander, Black, Indigenous, and Latino communities. I hope you'll agree I represent the diversity of District 54. I ask for your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will take it over to our persistent candidate of the evening, Cheryl Turner. Give us your 3 minutes, Cheryl. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's good to be back here with you again. As she stated, my name is Cheryl Turner. I'm a candidate for the 54th Assembly District, and I am a native of this district. Grew up here, went to Westchester High School, which you all are familiar with. Then I went on to USC, where I studied law. I opened my own law firm after leaving law school, where I specialized in areas involving civil rights, consumer rights. I also have an environmental and tax and business background. And after working and representing clients and helping them to address their most pressing needs when they were facing huge obstacles, I decided I still wanted to do something for the community, and I began my work in public service. But one of the things that I loved to do is to travel back and forth to Sacramento and sit down with each of the legislators at the Senate level and at the Assembly level, and even with the governor's staff, to discuss laws that were coming out and to give input as to how we can improve them in areas of civil and criminal justice, environmental law, and housing especially. And when I did that, I realized that I really enjoyed the work of making laws and getting feedback from constituents and helping them fight for what they wanted and what they needed to make their community a better place to live by advocating in Sacramento. And so I knew down the line that I wanted to run for office one day and represent people on a larger scale. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I think that I can apply what I've been doing in my law practice on a smaller scale of listening to my clients' issues, helping them to resolve their concerns, and represent the constituents of this district. And I can do that effectively because I've been doing that on issues already in Sacramento. I am one of the few candidates who have had so many of these direct experiences in which we create laws. Areas like housing. I've been involved in building, constructing, and managing affordable housing that we need. I've been a small business owner, so I understand the needs of a small business owner and how to create jobs, which we sorely need. I fought for clean air in this environment and fought against pesticides. So I know firsthand about those issues as well. And that's another area I'd like to work on. I work with medical clinics. And so I know about what we can do to bring about Medicare for all and provide prescription drug benefits for all. So many different experiences that I want to bring to this district and represent them. And I ask for your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Thank you. So thank you for your introductions. A lot of people have already touched on some of the issues that we'll be discussing specifically in questions. So we're going to ask everybody to answer the same question. I think we're calling it to 2 minutes. Is that correct, Pete? 2 minutes, 2 minutes per answer for question? Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure that we're on schedule there. So we'll mix up the order that we started in and take it around the other direction. So our first question is about, several of you mentioned the housing crisis. So the state is facing a housing crisis. We want to know what specific policies and bills do you support to address supply, stability, and affordability? Do you support canceling rent and or mortgages? So 2 minutes each. And let me start with Ms. Fowler.
Okay, greetings again. I am the candidate in this race with direct construction experience. Not only have I built affordable housing, I have also pulled the funding down and been a part of the grant making process to fund affordable housing. I'm committed to developing 5,000 units of affordable housing and 1,000 beds for our homeless. That can be done. It was done in the 9th Council District in Los Angeles by Jan Perry, who does not have the construction background. So someone with and the political will can do that work. Yes, I have supported the rent relief program and the the moratorium on mortgages until we can get through this crisis. I am happy about the American Rescue Plan that is going to be bringing billions to our state. We also have a $19 billion surplus. So we have the funding. There's a number of ways that we can fund bringing affordable housing. I think the people of Los Angeles and the people of this county really wanted to do the right thing when they voted for these various measures, bond measures to fund. However, we're barely cranking out 9,000 units with $2 billion, which is, we should have been looking at close to 30,000 units. So it's important that we have people that have the political will, who will not be privatizing these efforts, that will ensure that we are bringing these projects in-house and taking care of business as it relates to developing affordable housing. Let me just say this. There is nothing more important than creating affordable housing in our communities. And it is critical that we have people with the experience in construction. If the state is going to be getting in the business of housing and the business of public banking, which is also a way to affordable housing, they need to be hiring people with that background. I'm endorsed by Eleni Kounalakis for that reason, because she knows I know how to do this work. Our Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Let's bounce that over to Mr. Morales.
I would definitely support legislation for affordable housing. I think it's outrageous that the development, the cumulus development that you're all aware of on the eastern end of Culver City at La Cienega and Jefferson, with over 1,200 units, did not include any affordable housing. I think we need to support veterans housing. And I believe that it's imperative that we understand that those of us that are homeowners are displacing the community when we should be supporting new housing in the community and our veterans should be supported. And I remember when I was on the West Adams Neighborhood Council, we voted against, I repeat, we voted against a veterans housing community on Hauser, just north of Jefferson. The argument was that it would have added to congestion along the Jefferson corridor. So I believe that there is a way to build affordable housing along a corridor that has mass transit. I'm talking about the Expo line. So that's where I stand. I completely understand how Culver City and the development there with Apple, with HBO, is displacing current residents. And some of those new housing developments, one specifically is the one across from Chase on Washington and Hughes. One-bedroom apartments are starting at $3,500. That's ridiculous. Hopefully you're familiar with that building. It has no affordable units. So again, I think it's imperative.
That's fine, Mr. Morales. So we're going to call you on 2 minutes.
Okay. So again,
so I'm going to take this over to Mr. Bryan, but just a reminder, the question is about specifically what policies and what bills you are supporting in specific to housing. It's great to hear, people's experience and ideas, but that we really want to get pinpointed down to the legislative end of it. So Mr. Bryan, it's your 2 minutes. Housing.
I'm muted. That's all right.
There you go. You're unmuted. Yeah.
I just said something profound and you all missed it. No, the rent was too high before the pandemic. And a lot of folks have been unable to pay it. That's why we have the moratorium in place, but we need to be talking about canceling the rent. But you can't have that impact homeowners, because we know those who own property in Los Angeles and our neighborhoods are not always big development corporations. Sometimes it's mom and pop shops that are going to get hit just as hard. And so we have to be mindful of that. We don't just have $19 billion of a surplus. Thank you, Holly Mitchell. But we also have another $20 billion coming in from the federal government. And that's got to make its way down to our communities. I'm a big proponent of social housing, right? That's Alex Lee's bill in the assembly. And while it had some tweaks yesterday, for those of you paying close attention, and I know you are, I still think there's a lot of good in the idea and a lot more good that we can do in that. We need to have density conversations. We can't have 60,000 people living on our streets at the same time. We're the richest city and the richest county and the richest state and the richest country. We have to do better. The other thing that's really, really important for us to realize is that we have more vacant units right now than we have people living on our streets. Right? So we have to be mindful of the fact that we're making it profitable to hold vacant units at the same time. People are barely getting by, and that can't be allowed. The state has to step in. We have to think very, very critically about that. And it's funny when we talk about experience in housing and ways that we can do it. I think Measure J is often characterized as a criminal justice bill, but one of the first buckets of funding that Measure J dollars could go towards is affordable housing, because H and HHH is not enough. We've got to think even more broadly about how all of these systems intersect. It's not just that folks are sleeping on the street and we don't have enough housing. It's the same neighborhoods where we have the environmental hazards. It's the same neighborhoods where we have food insecurity and we don't have enough grocery stores. It's the same neighborhoods where our education systems are letting kids fall through the crack. So you can't think about these things individually and siloed. You've got to think about the constellation of progressive policies we've got to move forward. So when we're talking about housing, we're also talking about economic justice, because affordable is not enough, because affordability keeps changing. An affordable apartment in LA is still too expensive. We've got to talk low income housing, and that's missing.
Great, thank you. Let's take that over to Ms. Turner, again, specific on what policies you support.
Yes, well, there are a number of policies I support. One of them is, to continue with our tax credits that we have made available. That's how I was able to work with a group to build affordable housing for senior citizens in Los Angeles County with those credits. That's very important. I think that we do need to look at development near transit corridors, and that doesn't mean interfering with single family home residents. That means that on the corners where you have the bus lines going or the subways going, yes, we can support the development of, more housing and more density. And when we bring in new housing, I do believe that we need to continue including a percentage of units that remain affordable no matter what, so we do not displace our people that are been living in those areas for so many years. We want to keep them as neighbors and give them a place to live that they can afford. I have been working tirelessly on this rental assistance bill, which is, they are now accepting applications. I've been working with that with my local association, but also with my statewide association to, put in different provisions included in that. And so in that sense, yes, rent is forgiven, mortgages are forgiven, but that doesn't mean that no one is compensated. That means that the government can step in and pay, so the renter or the owner doesn't have to pay because they can't pay because of COVID. But you can't just completely deprive an owner of all forms of compensation. I want to encourage the policy about building public housing and low affordable housing that's being worked on, and ADUs are another thing we want to encourage.
That's your 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Turner. Great. So some interesting thoughts about housing. Nice to hear everyone's reflection. Again, there's specific pieces out there that we were interested in finding out how you connect with that and how you relate. So on to question 2. And of course, right next to housing, one of our biggest social needs is education. So schools have been underfunded for decades. California is woefully low on the 50 states in terms of what we spend per student. What investments are you willing to make to rebuild or to build resilient schools that can overcome future crises? So of course, within the pandemic, we're all in an extraordinary situation. Schooling is right now something it never has been before. So looking for some unique and original thought on creative solutions. And let's start with Mr. Morales.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I got my college counseling certificate from UCLA. So that is one of my focuses, because I recall as a high schooler meeting my college counselor once, and I went to high school in Monterey County, went to Seaside High School. That's just a travesty. if you look at LAUSD, the average caseload for a college counselor is 378 students. That's an impossible caseload. Most experts agree that a caseload of 250 should be the max. So I'm not necessarily saying all students should go to college. What I am saying is all students should have access to the counseling for either community college, for vocational schooling, etc. So I'm a huge advocate for supporting LAUSD in hiring counselors that will help our youth with a path forward. I think that is just basic. So that's something I would focus on when it comes to supporting education.
Great, thank you. And just to point Mr. Morales as an excellent example, don't feel like you have to use the whole 2 minutes. If you made your point, we appreciate that you made your point, and we'll carry on from there. We'll all get to the end of the evening that much quicker. So let me roll that up to Ms. Fowler. What are your thoughts on education and how you would make it more resilient?
Greetings. For one, funding per pupil spending, increasing per pupil spending. We know that at one point in time, we were in the top 5th in the nation, and now we're in the bottom 5th. And that is because we have not been funding education. We have to make education, as Delane Easton would say, our budget is a statement of our values. We know that it's really important for us to show that but most importantly for me right now, I think it's making sure that our facilities are safe before they enter. We need to ensure that they're the proper water filtration systems, ventilation systems. I've built over 20 LAUSD public projects in schools and parks and recs. And we know that the bungalows that are at a number of these facilities simply will not do. And if we're asking students to be educated outside, what is the air quality that they're being educated in? There's a number of issues as it relates to that. Funding is a big part, but also, like I mentioned earlier, closing the wealth gap. I'm also a graduate of Westchester High, as Cheryl Turner mentioned. And there is nothing more important to me than ensuring that we mandate financial literacy at the middle school, high school, and community college level so that we can close this wealth gap. Also work with people that are mid-career in unions to do this same work and ensure that our occupational centers are funded. I'm actually working with Dr. George McKenna on the LAUSD School Board, who has endorsed my campaign, as well as Scott Smurlson on the LAUSD School Board, and Margaret Evans in Inglewood, because they know my commitment to public education, they know my experience around our facilities, and they know that I'm aware that there are many issues that we could talk about, and 2 minutes just simply is not enough to do that. But there was one other point I wanted to make. I would also support a moratorium on high-rise developments in our area. So I didn't get to say that on the other piece.
Well, we appreciate it, and nicely trimmed there at the end. So thank you so much. Let's take it over to Ms. Turner. Your thoughts on education. You have 2 minutes.
Yes. Well, I believe that education is the foundation of success, believe me. So it's very important. I think we need to definitely do something about our internet access. We need to work towards making it more stable, reliable, high efficiency, quality, available to everyone, including those who cannot afford, but are students and rely upon the internet access for educational purposes. I think that we need to look at the funding that we normally rely upon property taxes to pay for schools in different areas. Certainly, the wealthier areas have more money that they can use to fund schools in their area, and we need to do something about our budget where we provide more supplemental income to those areas that have lower property taxes and therefore less money to contribute towards funding education. And we need to look at what is happening to some of our money going towards the charter schools. And this is not to say that I'm against them. I'm not taking that position, but I am saying that we need to take a look at it, because some of the money is being diverted from the public schools as far as I am aware, but I'm not an expert on this. And it appears that schools are being built for students that just aren't there, that don't need those schools, and money is being invested in real estate, purchasing, buying, and owning in real estate. Money that could be used towards, again, funding our schools. We need to put more money in pre-K to get our children ready to go on to higher education, and I believe that we need more STEM programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll take it over to Mr. Bryan, who on his introduction has probably seen the inside of more schools than most of us. Well, that was also me in grade school, so I feel where you're coming from. There was a lot of schools.
Judith, you just took my opening line. I have been to more schools, public schools, than I think probably anybody on this call. I failed out of middle school. I wasn't allowed to graduate because I had done so poorly. You needed a 2.0 average in math and language arts. I had a 1.0 average. And so I've seen the ugly and I've seen the good. I also got my master's in public policy from UCLA, where I graduated top of my class. And I can tell you that we are not investing enough in our teachers. We are not investing enough in our kids, and we are not investing enough in our school facilities. And it's because of my ability to champion these issues successfully that the California Teachers Association has endorsed me. That's over 350,000 teachers across the state. I currently work in higher education at UCLA, where I founded a policy arm of a research think tank where we provide research opportunities for hundreds of students. But when you think about innovative ways we can change schools, first we have to think about wasteful spending. And when I think about LAUSD, I think about the $70 million budget that was for school police officers that exacerbated social inequities for Black students. I worked for over 2 years to get all police officers off of campus, and we defunded $25 million from that budget and have reinvested that money in things that are going to close the achievement gap and still keep our community safe, still keep our schools safe, hire new campus safety coaches that come from the community and can work with the students to provide a healthy environment without stigmatizing them with the fear of criminalization. That's one thing, but we also need even more money for our schools. The reality is Prop 98, which was supposed to be a floor and not a ceiling, became the ceiling. And now the state never thinks about doing anything else. The reality is we still spend more on our state corrections expenditures than we do on our higher education system, the UC system. We spend $13 billion in state corrections expenditures. If we just took 1% of that, just 1% of that, that's $130 million more for our schools annually, right? We have to think creatively. We have to expand access to early childhood education too, so that we're not putting all of the pressure on our primary schools. Kids have the capability to learn at a young age, and we need to be feeding them with all the information they need, and we need to fund it at a high level.
Great, thank you very much. So now that we've got everybody on housing and education and some terrific feedback there, I'm really intrigued with some of the answers that we're getting. We're going to move on to question 3. And the topic that's on everyone's daily radar right now is healthcare. So with the pandemic, we've seen an amazing revelation on the inequities and inequalities of our healthcare system. Do you support AB 1400? And if yes, what will you do in the assembly to convince other members to support AB 1400? So just a gentle reminder to the candidates, we're real specific on this policy. We need you to speak to AB 1400. I'm sure you got some great thoughts in the general field of healthcare, but talk to us about AB 1400. I'm going to start with Ms. Turner. You are muted, so. You didn't expect to be first. That's okay.
No. All right. Well, I have to tell you, to be honest, I'm not familiar.
Now we will start the clock. Yeah.
Okay. To be honest with you, I'm not specifically familiar with AB 1400, but I can tell you about my feelings about the healthcare issue. We definitely need to do something about it. I believe that, the Affordable Care Act was an excellent first step, and, it puts us in the right direction, but we can do things to improve it. Definitely, we need to look at how we can achieve Medicare for all and free prescription coverage. And I believe that I have ideas about how we can do that. I talked to you about how I had been involved working with community medical clinics, both as a general counsel for them, but also, yes, as all around attorney for them, and had an opportunity to see how they operated, how they build. And right now, the latest thing is that, they're working on things like capitation, where instead of, charging per visit, the there's an intermediary that comes up with, and that could be government, that comes up with a way to compensate these clinics on a monthly basis, and then patients can go in as much as needed. They don't have to worry about costs. The doctors are satisfied because they're getting consistent payments. And if there's some catastrophic condition like cancer or Medicare, there's a carve out, and there could be additional compensation for that. We need to open up our borders so that we can figure out how to either, purchase our medication, across the border, like in Canada, or else provide the government with the authority to be able to negotiate for their own better prices from these drug companies. I think my time is up.
Great, thank you. We'll take it over to Ms. Fowler. Ms. Fowler, what are your thoughts on AB 1400?
I support AB 1400. I've been a longtime advocate for single payer. I'm probably the only candidate in this race that has held door knocks to support single payer initiatives. I have knocked doors from Westwood to Western Boulevard, educating this community on why we need single payer. Medi-Cal does not go far enough. It is not that great. We have a lot of work to do to shore up Medi-Cal, but we also know that the Affordable Care Act never went far enough. And we have way too many millennials who simply can barely afford their rent, let alone $400 a month, as some of the things that they list as the monies that they're asking for them in terms of healthcare. There are just simply far too many people who don't have equity and access to quality healthcare. For me, I think the bill is not perfect. No bill is. I think we really need to take into account what our physicians and other people in the medical field are going to experience. They get the lowest rates when they see people who are Medi-Cal. And we need to make sure that we are finding a sweet spot for this industry, because we don't want them leaving California. We need them to stay here. And in the middle of a pandemic, as we pass this, doing the right thing, I do support this bill and I will do everything to fight for it. However, we know that there are going to be some amendments and some things that we need to do to make sure that our healthcare and medical professionals remain here in California and serve. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Let's take that over to Mr. Bryant. Talk to us about AB 1400.
Yes, I would absolutely support it. In fact, I'm the only candidate who's been endorsed by one of the chief authors, and that's Alex Lee, who endorsed me last night, and one of the co-authors, Sydney Kamlanger, who's also endorsed me in this bill. Single payer is common sense. We spend more money both in the short term and the long term, the way that we currently run our ineffective healthcare infrastructures. And we know from this last year, especially, just how vulnerable people are to not having quality health coverage. We have to detangle this idea that affordable Medicare is a benefit of a livable wage and good job. We have to detangle labor and health benefits and make CalCare something that's affordable and accessible to everybody in California. So strongly in support of this. And the second part of your question had to do with how will you get others to support this? I'm a coalition builder. That's what I do by nature. It's what I do. And it's my mama's fault because I have 12 brothers and sisters. And our table was building out a coalition of folks who don't always agree every single day. I'm the person who got Mayor Garcetti and Melina Abdullah to support the same ballot measure last election cycle, right? We bring people to the table and we push for things that matter. And CalCare matters, AB 1400 matters. And I'm not going to use the whole 2 minutes because this is a no-brainer for me.
Great, thank you. Mr. Morales.
I am not in support of a single payer system. Throughout my career, I've always worked in a corporate setting. I'm asthmatic, and I've always appreciated my private insurance, frankly. In speaking to people about single payer, the people that I have spoken to also love their private insurance. Now, that's not to say I don't want other people to be insured. But if you speak to people who are are blessed enough to have private insurance, they don't want that to go away, be it with Aetna, United Healthcare, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's great insurance, but I'm saying that from the perspective of having come from JP Morgan, which has 250,000 employees. So, can afford the best insurance. Currently, I'm at Citibank. I love my Aetna insurance. Again, that's not to say I don't want other people to be insured. When I think of single payer system, to me, that indicates that my insurance would be taken away. What I would like to see is the opportunity for people to buy into Medicare. So not Medi-Cal, Medicare. So I think it should be means tested. I think it was Dallas that said, for students or for younger people that are struggling to pay rent and put food on the table, a $400 a month premium is out of the question. Again, it should be means tested. If you make $30,000 a year, you pay one rate. If you make $150,000 a year, you pay another. So I think it should be bicameral. You have, if you're lucky enough to have your private insurance, more power to you. If you're not in that position, you should be able to buy in to Medicare.
That's your 2 minutes, Mr. Morales. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for all of your insight. And we've got just one more question to run through the whole panel here. So staying off the national news, we are all very interested in the dialogue about reimagining police. In past decades, California has led the nation in mass incarceration and militarized policing. We are now what we think of as correcting course. So thanks to Black Lives Matter, ballot initiatives like Prop 47 and LA County Measure J, progressive district attorneys like Boudin and Gascon, what are your plans for the criminal justice system and public safety? You can be kind of broad here. We're not speaking to one specific bill that's on the floor, but try to keep it within California and within our local focus on what you see as possibilities for policing in the future. So let me start with Ms. Fowler.
I've started first a number of times. I find that interesting. Okay. Greetings.
I'm sorry, you're on the top of my screen. Maybe I'm doing it subconsciously.
Okay.
This just happened to be like the next one. I'm hoping I'm being random. Maybe I'm not being random enough. If not, excuse me.
That's fantastic. It's all good. I'll just say this. I support police accountability. I've had family members that have been brutalized by the police. I know I've witnessed a number of things at the hands of the police that lead me to believe that we need to go a little further than some of the accountability measures that have been taken. I support a Floyd's list that would list killer cops. People want to know who is living in and around their communities. Also, as it relates to criminal justice reform or restorative justice, I know that there are far too many people that have been caught up on gang enhancements, other enhancements we need to do away with, mandatory minimums we need to do away with. I'm actually doing work in this area right now for working to put an entertainment arts program in our LA County jail system so that people can learn sound engineering, DJing, making music, something that can give them something to look forward to, a career path. They need to have rehabilitation on day one, mental health service, social services, so that they are able to heal. I don't necessarily agree that the juveniles detention facilities that are being closed should be dumped into LA County jails. I think that is going to be a mistake in the long run, but I also support, okay, my battery may be about to die on you. But criminal justice reform is big for me. And I also supported Measure R and Measure J. And I went around this party from the San Fernando Valley to San Pedro to make sure that the LA County Democratic Party endorsed both of those measures. So thank you.
That's your 2 minutes, and we'll let you find a plug-in. So we don't.
It was actually 1 minute and 45 seconds, but I appreciate it.
I was looking at Mr. Rockwell, and that was 2. So I will take that down to Mr. Morales. So you have 2 minutes to talk to us about reimagining police.
All right, well, as I said in my opening statement, policing is obviously fraught in this country. I mean, it's just obvious that there is a problem, but I believe in speaking to people when I was knocking on doors, trying to get on the ballot, that defunding the police is simply not the answer. It simply isn't. I understand that it's an untenable situation for many in our community. I mean, even a blind man can see that our African-American brothers and sisters are treated completely different than the rest of us. What is the solution? The solution is to work with our law enforcement community. And Isaac said earlier about education, about our penal system. We're spending, I believe he said, 13 billion on incarcerating people, and taking 1% of that budget and redeploying it. I think we could probably do the same with our law enforcement agencies. So not defunding the police, but reforming the police and reallocating resources to mental health issues. And, again, as I said in the opening statement, not every situation necessitates a cop coming to your door. So again, I think redeploying some of the resources that we spend on our law enforcement is the answer. Defunding the police simply is a non-starter for many, many constituents.
All right, thank you for your time. We'll take that over to Mr. Bryan.
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't clarify something. Defunding the police means exactly what Samuel said. Take 1% and move it to something else that promotes care and opportunity. You have defunded a portion of the carceral infrastructure, right? And it's what the city of Los Angeles did when we took $100 million. And I know that's what defunding the police actually means, right? The reallocation of some resources, all resources, whatever the political imagination is open to, because I helped define what that means last year after I was swung on by LAPD police officers while peaceful protesting on 3rd and Fairfax. And we were kettled in, and that escalated. I sat with the mayor the next day and the police chief and talked very plainly about just how far we have to go, just how much work we have to do. And I remember telling the mayor that day, we also need to bring the superintendent in to talk about the law enforcement presence on our school campuses. And so I'm pleased to say a lot of the things I said that day have come to fruition, but we're not where we need to be yet. We did get Gascon. We did get Supervisor Mitchell. We absolutely got Measure J, but there's so much more we got to do. We had a decertification bill in Sacramento last year. That means if you're fired from one department for misconduct, you shouldn't be allowed to work at another department in the state of California. That bill didn't get signed by the governor. We've got to push the Crisis Act led by Sydney Kamlanger. I helped her architect the Crisis Act when I was in her office as a senior advisor, thinking about how we fund alternative crisis response models for those times we don't need a badge and a gun, where we need a mental health worker, where we need a crisis intervention worker. That bill didn't get signed by the governor last year, despite making it onto his desk. We didn't have the political courage because we got so stuck in the sloganeering. And I'm past slogans. It's time to move policy. And I'm so proud of all of us who moved Measure J, moved George Gascon. I'm so proud of the Bay fighting for Chase, and we have to defend these wins. I've been endorsed by Patrice Cullors and Black Lives Matter and many other folks in this movement. And it's a movement I plan on taking to Sacramento and building the coalition needed to really move our state to where we need to be. I'm proud of where we're going, but we've got further to go.
Great, thank you. And Ms. Turner.
Yes, well, AD 54 covers a diverse population all the way from South LA to the west side. And those communities may have different relationships with the police, but everybody wants to feel safe and protected and the police to come when they call. So we have to do something about maintaining our police department. Yes, we can deploy money towards things like mental health, intervention before or with the police when they respond to a situation, but we cannot eliminate our police department. We have to keep them for the protection of our lives, our property. We just need them there. So we need to provide some support, but we do need to address the bad cops that are out there. And we need to look for ways to remove them if they are out there unnecessarily brutalizing people. But for the most part, the officers are good people in dangerous situations. And so we need to support the good cops. As far as the criminal justice system, we need to support people who are incarcerated and about to be released, providing them with educational opportunities and training. I like that firefighter program where they had an opportunity to work as firefighters while they were incarcerated, and then upon release, work as firefighters. That's a great program. We need to do something about the war on drugs, and what I mean by that is those people that were incarcerated for use of marijuana, which is now legal, yes, they need to be released because it's now legal. We need to have a better relationship with officers in our community. Have them come out to social activities and get to know people and become culturally sensitive.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Turner. So I'm going to reshuffle my screen a little here, but we're going to finish off with our long answers and go into short answer. We just want to hear from everyone. Who did you vote for in the 2020 presidential primary? So just one name. You don't need to tell us why or how long you had to stand in line, or if you mailed it in early, just tell us who you voted for. So I'll start with Mr. Bryan.
Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you. Ms. Turner?
Tom Steyer.
Mr. Morales?
Joe Biden.
And Ms. Fowler?
Bernie Sanders.
There you go. All right. So the next short answer, what person from California history do you most admire? So I'll let you give me a name and we'll say a sentence. No biographies. What person from the history of California do you most admire? Take a moment, take a breath, think it over. And let's start with Ms. Turner.
What person do I admire from California?
History. I mean, we can go all the way back, you know.
You know, Jerry Brown did a good job. He was around for a long time. He served in all these different offices, Attorney General, Mayor of Oakland, Governor a couple of times, and no one else comes to mind right at the moment, unfortunately.
Cool, Jerry Brown, great answer. Mr. Morales.
My answer would be my grandfather, Salvador Alva, who came from Mexico just after the Second World War ended. So in the 40s, I think it was 45. He came to California, moved to Montebello with his 3 children that were born in Mexico, and had another 8 children. So he raised 11 children. The eldest went to UCLA Law School. The second, she went to UC Riverside and got her PhD. The third eldest went to Cal State Fullerton, got her master's, and spent her career as a teacher. So this man who had a high school education from a village in Mexico came with his wife just after the Second World War, raised 11 children, grandchildren. He has grandchildren that have gone to Cornell, Stanford, Vassar. I think that I admire him because what he faced, he raised 11 children. I can't imagine. So I admire him.
It's nice when your own personal history touches in with California history. There you go. Ms. Fowler, who's your most admired person in California history?
I would say Queen Khalifa, the person whom this state is named after. Many people don't know the indigenous history. Spain was the first to colonize California, but before that, there were many people here of various complexions, various phenotypes, and she was one of them. And if you are ever in the Sacramento Capitol, you will see a beautiful mural of her outside the governor's office.
Yeah, I'm rather a fan of hers as well. So good choice. Mr. Bryan, who's your favorite person in California history? And just a short sentence on why.
can't help but go way back. A lot of contemporary heroes, but Biddy Mason. Biddy Mason was born in Mississippi, enslaved. She challenged her own freedom in California and won that petition, and then went on to become one of Los Angeles' most prominent historic Black women, Black figures. She founded Fame Church, and there's just so much that we owe her. There's a memorial downtown, but we keep it hidden behind bushes. I'd like to see it be more prominent. If you haven't been there, you should be there. But Biddy Mason comes to mind.
There you go. Biddy Mason, also another person I'm a very big fan of, a little feminist lean on my California history here. So we are going to go to, are we short answers, or these are like, no, these are still short answers to say. So we've got we need to make our short answers just a little shorter, and that's on me. I apologize. I'm letting people carry on because I'm so interested in what you're saying. So we'll just roll it around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Have you taken the no fossil fuel money pledge? We'll start with Mr. Morales. Just a yes or no.
No.
Okay, Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Ms. Fowler?
I was the first candidate in this race to take the no fossil fuel money.
Ms. Turner?
Not yet.
Okay. Will you publicly support SB 467 that bans fracking and promotes a 2,500-foot setback? Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
I support setbacks, fracking. Yeah, we got to stop it, but we need oil.
Okay. Mr. Morales?
Yes.
And Ms. Fowler?
I support the bill, but I just want to be clear that fracking is not to extract oil, it's for natural gas. And not only do I support that bill, I also support stopping all of the drilling happening in and around. I don't think the bill goes far enough. Thank you.
Okay. Will you publicly support AB 207 that bans corporate contributions? Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Fowler?
Another bill that doesn't go far enough. We need true campaign finance reform. If you're going to close off corporate contributions, you need to close off all contributions in publicly financed campaigns. I don't know that that bill is going to pass, but I look forward to seeing what happens.
Mr. Morales?
No.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes, and I've been endorsed by the bill's author.
And will you publicly support AB 854, the Ellis Act reform? Mr. Morales?
I'm not familiar with that act.
Okay. Mr. Bryan?
Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Fowler?
Yes, I forgot we had these.
Yeah, there you go. We'll pick up the placards. You get a point on that one. And Ms. Turner?
We already have Ellis Act. So I would not support any additional legislation on top of that.
Okay. Do you support a split roll legislation? Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
No.
Mr. Morales?
No.
Ms. Fowler? She's not going to get a yes up. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll start using these.
Do you support ending qualified immunity at the state level? Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Mr. Morales?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Fowler?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Everybody supports ending qualified immunity. Do you support a repeal of Costa-Hawkins? Ms. Turner?
No.
Mr. Morales?
No.
Ms. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
We're in control.
All right. Clipping through here. Do you support AB 310 on public banking? Mr. Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Fowler?
I did support it, and I'm endorsed by the activists that have been organizing around that bill. Thank you.
Do you support closing the Inglewood oil fields? Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Ms. Fowler's a yes. Ms. Turner?
Eventually, one day.
Okay. Mr. Morales? Good
Yes.
yes. Great. Okay. Do you support closing the Playa Vista natural gas storage facility? Ms. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Morales?
I'm undecided on that one.
Okay, Ms. Turner?
I need more information. I'm undecided.
Okay.
Probably, but.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes, and we don't talk about it enough.
Okay. There's a short piece on Culver City Crossroads about the brush fire that was there last week. So if you need more information, we have some journalism for you. Do you support a state takeover of PG&E? Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Fowler?
A state takeover of PG&E. Yeah, okay, sure. I think some of their operations should just stop in general, but okay, yeah, fine.
Mr. Morales?
No.
Mr. Bryan?
I would say yes to undecided. We got to think that one through a bit more. The idea, yes.
All right.
I agree. Is it feasible? Can it happen legally, lawfully? Well, possibly. Yeah, I can. Now that I think about it a little more, yes.
We can get into further details. We're just whipping through the end of the test questions here. So, do you support high-speed rail, Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Ms. Fowler?
In certain areas, so I'm a maybe, not everywhere.
All right, Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Morales?
Yes.
Okay. Do you accept contributions from or seek the endorsement of police or prison guard associations? Mr. Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
I never thought I had to say it out loud, but no.
It's a formality, but we're asking everyone the same questions. Ms. Fowler?
No, but I will meet with them because it is important to hear all sides.
And Ms. Turner?
I will be meeting with them.
Okay. All right, so congratulations. You have all made it within breathing distance of the finish line. We're going to come into closing statements. So I believe, Mr. Rockwell, we also had, is it 3 minutes for closing statements, or are we staying with 2? Are we 2 for closing statements?
I'm finding out here. Hold on. Jeff or Leah would know, actually. I don't have it in front of me.
It's not on here.
Why don't we just go ahead and roll for 3?
Okay.
All right. I'm going to
I wanted to take, now that I'm unmuted, I just wanted to make it clear that Heather Hutt never accepted our invitation because from the beginning she had a conflict. She has a fundraiser tonight. So somebody asked me in the chat if Heather had accepted and then not shown up. No, she didn't accept. She had a conflict. We invited everybody, but Heather couldn't make it.
We invited her to send a surrogate.
We did invite her to send a surrogate, but she wasn't able to.
And of course, I'm sure all the other candidates are aware that their schedules are equally busy, and they understand that sometimes you can't get all the points to line up in the right direction. So coming around for closing statements, trying to keep my notes here so we get everybody succinct and nicely randomized. So why don't we start with Ms. Turner, and you can give us your 3 minutes, and Mr. Rockwell will start the clock for us.
Well, again, thank you for having me this evening to just talk about my qualifications and why I would like to represent this district in Sacramento. As I said to you, that I am the best candidate. I have a history of public service to this community. And I fought for clean air before the South Coast Air Quality Management District. I fought for civil justice, both at the Sacramento level and in the courts, protecting my clients' rights. I fought for consumer rights, representing clients. And as I said, I want to apply that on a larger scale, having an open office to the community, the constituents, the people, to hear the concerns and needs, and so that we can work together to create laws that will make this community a better, safer place to live. As I said, I'm the one with the most direct experience, having been a small business owner that has created jobs for this community, being a housing developer and provider of affordable housing, working in the medical field and seeing how they operate firsthand, working in the civil and criminal justice area to seeking reforms there. So I'm running to represent this community, and I want to address things like COVID, the effects of COVID on jobs, housing, and education. I want to also work to establish Medicare for all, and that doesn't mean that you cannot have the option to remain upon your private insurance or your union negotiated insurance if you choose to. If that's what you want to do, you have every right to do that, and I would encourage you to do that. I want to also work to support small businesses, again, so we can create jobs and stimulate entrepreneurship. And as I said, education is the foundation for success, so we need to do everything we can to fund education and make it wonderful experience with full of resources for all of our students. We need to protect the planet. This right now is the only home that we have. And so, yes, we need to do everything that we can to protect it. Yes, we do have to address our oil crisis, but we are not prepared to shut it down completely yet. Everything we depend upon is made of oil, our medication, our food, our tires. And frankly, people can't afford to upgrade to all those EVs yet, but definitely it's on our horizon and we want to work towards that, and we should. We want to promote housing so that people can remain in their homes and not be forced to leave because of gentrification. So many things we can work on together as a team, and I look forward to doing so. And I appreciate your support, and I request your endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morales, give us your closing statement. You've got 3. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for having me this evening. I think it's clear that our district is a very, very diverse district. I recently read that it's one of the most diverse districts in the nation. I mean, if you look at the northern tip of District 54, it's some of the most expensive real estate in the nation. And then as we move further south, it's a completely different demographic. And I hope I've proven that I have a diversity of ideas. You know, in knocking on doors in Baldwin Hills and talking to some of the homeowners up in the Dons, you know, when we were just chewing the fat, a lot of the homeowners were talking about which private schools, excuse me, their children were candidates for. Not a one mentioned the public schools. So that, I think that just shows the diversity, because in my neighborhood in West Adams, the schools are all underperforming. So you have a situation where you have underperforming schools where the affluent parents aren't sending their children. And again, everything in between. So I'm hoping I'm bringing to the table a diversity of ideas, as I've said. I have a corporate background, you know, for better or worse. I have a certain experience with law enforcement. I didn't mention my father was a military policeman growing up. I'm an Army brat. So you know, again, that's a different perspective. Again, my corporate background with JP Morgan, Citibank, and on and on. So again, my experience with healthcare is different. It's much different than a lot of the people in the southern part of the district. You know, I mentioned I'm a small business owner with my husband. We've created jobs as well. I know the importance of jobs. I know the importance of supporting our local schools. And I think it's clear from my performance that I'm a newcomer to this. I don't have the endorsements of, you know, Sydney Kamlanger and Holly Mitchell, and the list goes on and on. So, you know, I've always been kind of a politico with my ear to the ground. And I always thought cronyism was a Republican thing. But in running, I'm learning that it isn't. It isn't a Republican thing. Cronyism exists in the Democratic Party as well. So I'm hoping you will consider me as the newcomer who has a diversity of ideas. And I really do thank you for your patience and for hosting me this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's have a closing statement from Ms. Fowler.
I knew I would be next. Greetings. Thank you so much for having me, Culver City Dems. I really appreciate you putting on this forum. I know that it is not something that all the clubs get to do. And I appreciate you trying to have an open forum for us to get our ideas out. I was shocked that we didn't get a chance to give our open platform around the environment. Drilling isn't the only issue happening around our environment, affecting our air quality. We also have a major effort to privatize our water here. And I've been the only person advocating and speaking out on this issue. If we don't wake up and pay attention, our water will be like the water in Flint, Michigan, and in Jackson, Mississippi, and in Texas, in those places. It's really important that we have people that understand not only how to revive and restore this economy. It's important that we have people that know where the money is and how to bring it to this district specifically, know how to develop affordable housing, know how to fund a Green New Deal and bring 500,000 jobs to this district, eradicate the plastics, pull the plastics out of the ocean and start using them and repurposing them in our construction efforts. All of that has to be done, and it has to take people who have this technical experience as well as the knowledge in a diverse area to be able to bring those jobs and the workforce development to this district. I can't see my timer, so I don't know how much time I have. So I'm just going to keep going until you tell me I can't.
You've got another minute and 20.
Okay, fantastic.
Carry on. Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't take the elevator to get here. I am not exaggerating about my experience. My followers are real and they vote. I grew up in this community. I went to church in this community. I am still very much an activist and an advocate. And how I tend to move bills is talking to the people. So while some of my candidates and opponents in this race may have been working for elected officials, I have been working for the people this entire time. I did not get paid for the work that I did for the city of Los Angeles. That is many years of 20-hour weeks of free service that I have provided to this community. I am very much committed to you. And I've been around this club for a very long time. And I remember when people have come and gone. I haven't always been a member and I haven't always been able to be active, but I do ask that you support a candidate who has always been supportive of you. And so I am not business as usual. If you want some of the same things that you've been getting, you continue to support the same people and the people that are supporting them. So if you want something new and you want change, I am your candidate.
We're going to call 3 minutes there, Ms. Fowler. Thank you.
There we go. Not business as usual, DallasFowler.com. Thank you very much.
And final 3 minutes, Mr. Bryan.
So I said it in my opening remarks. The 54th Assembly District is about 450,000 people. You know how many registered voter signatures you had to get on the ballot without having to pay your way on? 100. Just 100 verified signatures. I'm the only one who got it. You can check the registrar. And I got them because I've been out in this community. I've been organizing. I built the coalition with Justice LA that pushed to stop the construction of a new women's jail facility and cancel a $3 billion contract that was going to go towards harm, and instead built out the Alternatives to Incarceration work group that was led by Dr. Bob Ross and Culver City's own Kelly Lotto Hernandez. I put SB 439 on Holly Mitchell's desk many years ago that banned the prosecution of children under the age of 12, which laid the framework for what we just did in LAUSD. I was the first person in the state of California to testify on the reparations bill that was passed by Dr. Weber, because I did all of the background research for that bill and put it on her desk as the priority think tank for the California Legislative Black Caucus in the Bunch Center, which is also in the district. Sam said something that he's right. Cronyism does exist. and favors and favors and favors, which is why it's refreshing to come out of the mud and out of political organizing and out of lived experience and find yourself supported by those who you fought hard to move policy with. There isn't an endorsement in my list that I know personally. I know from the work. We got personal because we got in the work, because we moved hard things. And it's moving hard things and building coalitions that we need in Sacramento. Too often, we operate in silos. We forget about folks. We cater to certain parts of the district. We ignore Culver City, or we ignore the West Side, or we ignore Leimert Park. We're not bringing folks together in the way we should, and being a Democrat isn't enough, which is why everyone runs saying, I'm a progressive, because we all Democrats in California, so progressive is how we distinguish ourselves. And I'm tired of that label being thrown around when we're not courageous enough to move our values forward in a meaningful way. We backpedal, we play both sides, we sit on the fence instead of doing the hard work of really grounding ourselves in community movement, data and research, and sound political decision-making. That's what I've been doing for years in our neighborhoods. That's what I've been doing in the city, in the county, and at the state level. And I left advising our new Senator, Sydney Kamlanger, to run the Measure J campaign also for free. I did it because it was the right thing to do. I did it because we all marched in the streets last year and we needed change. And I did it because community organizations asked me to. They asked me if I would take it on when we had no money and we weren't even on the ballot yet. We fought together to get this far, and we're going to fight together to go that much further. And I would be honored to have the endorsement of this Democratic Club. Culver City was the last 5 signatures to put me on the ballot. And so tonight feels special to me to be here with you all, and I can't wait to go forward together.
Thank you so much. So really, thank you to all of our candidates. You did an outstanding job of presenting yourself, and we really value your participation in this forum. We appreciate you taking the time. And I think at this point, I turn it over to Mr. Rockwell for some more official business. And you're gonna decide where we're going next, Chair.
Well, thanks, Judith. You did a great job. Thanks to all the candidates. I didn't think I was going to be the one doing this at this point. I think Jeff is around here someplace.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Schwartz, is that you?
Our president, Jeff Schwartz.
Yeah, sure. So I'll, like Pete said, thanks everyone, all the candidates and everyone who sent us questions. And Judith, is a wonderful forum. And I hope everyone enjoyed listening and participating. And I'd like to ask the candidates to step out now and enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'll open up the floor to our members.
Thank you again. It was really a pleasure hearing from all of you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Are the members? Members are dismissed as well?
I mean, candidates that are...
Well,
that's a fair question.
That is a fair question. How have we handled this in the past, Mr. Ex-President?
All candidates were asked to
all the candidates were asked to leave, but sometimes we've had situations where they were all members, but we wanted the people to speak more freely with
I mean, do we just assume that every candidate voted for themselves?
So what?
Going to be emailing
no,
of a ballot?
the voting is not going to be at the meeting. The voting is on Election Buddy. And if you're a member who was a member last year and you've renewed for this year, you'll be getting a ballot. Now, some people
25 days.
Yeah, if you voted, if you joined for the first time more than 25 days ago, you'll also get a ballot.
Right.
So it's only club members that have been members for more than 25 days or were renewed for this year and also were members last year.
So the emails should arrive shortly?
Emails will be sent at 9 o'clock. Between now and then, we'll open up the floor for any club members who want to make a 1-minute speech on behalf of one of the candidates.
So candidates,
you want me to time? You want me to
moderator is signing off.
So thank you, Judith. Everyone check out Judith's website if you don't already read it.
Me and really enjoyed it.
Take
care, one and all.
Thank you, Judith.
My pleasure.
So
thank you, everybody.
So I think the idea of the candidates leaving is just so the members will be more comfortable talking about you, but positive things only.
All right.
Thank you all for coming. I wish you success.
All right, thank you.
You want me to keep the time on this one too? The 1 minute?
That would be great.
All right.
And I see, Pete, can you turn on the chat as well? So I see raised hands, Alex Fish, Yasmin Emmanuel Morin, Deanna Becker, Mark Lipman. So yes, Sarah, you're welcome to stay if you're working on a campaign. That's fine. I think it's, yes. So, and then, okay, so let's go, what did I say? Yasmin, Alex, Dina, Mark, Gina. 1 minute each, please.
Okay.
And we'll end recording. So Pete, can you turn off the recording?